Welcome to the SImple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables, and whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a café au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to Monday. Hopefully your weekend went well, and if you are ready or not, this is the week all about love. You know we're going to be bombarded with it all week in the newspapers, on the news, anywhere we go. This week is going to be in dedication to Valentine's Day, whether we want it to be or not. And what I always look at it as something along the lines of February 14th is simply a day with a Post-it on it as a reminder of what we should do all the other 364 days of the year. In other words, reminding those we love that we do care about them, that they're in our thoughts. And if we make something special on that 14th of February, fantastic, but why not do it the rest of the year as well? This coming Wednesday on Thoughts from the Editor, stop by the blog and I'll share a few ways to celebrate Valentine's Day that may be a little less traditional or conventional, but nonetheless worthwhile, whether you're single or spending it with someone. Anyway, on that note, because it is Valentine's week, I started thinking about this particular topic a while ago, and I was like, this would be a perfect week to talk about this. I initially started thinking about this idea of what the difference is between a man and a boy. And as I started thinking about that, I was realizing that, you know what? I am not a man or a boy. I am a female. And so it really isn't something that maybe I should dive into just yet. And so instead, after reading an article over this past weekend that basically prompted readers to consider the following: if things in your life are not going as planned, or an event does not go as you had hoped, instead of looking to the people involved or to anything externally, rather look inward to see how you contributed or played a part in allowing those events to unfold. Not that you were maybe the catalyst, but maybe you weren't helpful, or maybe you allowed it to happen by not putting up boundaries, whatever it was. In other words, the advice was look inwards before looking externally. And so I thought about this whole idea of men versus boys. What's the difference? Why not instead start with what is the difference between a woman and a girl? And so today I'm going to dive into the 10 differences between a woman and a girl. And as a twofer today, because I mentioned that I was going to write a blog post about the differences between men and boys, I have done that. Now, it won't be in this podcast, but if you go to the blog right after the show notes for this podcast 24, you will see the post titled 10 Differences Between Men and Boys. So you'll have a twofer today and be able to compare notes if you would like. But back to the differences between women and girls. I want to start with this quote from Simone de Beauvoir. And she says, quote, "One is not born, but rather becomes a woman." And that's really the jumping off point for today's episode. For some, this evolution from a girl to a woman occurs when they begin living on their own for the first time, completely free of parental support. For others, it occurs when they have their first stream of hard-earned income and open their first checking account. For others, it is often caused by a pivotal life event, such as a relocation or a death, or an introduction to a luminary figure that opens up a new way of looking at the world. And perhaps for some, it hasn't happened yet. That's okay, because it can still happen. And for those of us who have already evolved into being a woman, this is a way of becoming even more conscious of it. The shift from being a girl to becoming and embracing the gift of being a woman is on some levels subconscious, depending on how we were raised. But in its entirety, to truly embody this idea of being a woman, an authentic sense of what a woman has to be done consciously each and every day. And we're going to talk about those 10 things today. And there are probably a lot more specific things we could dive into, but these are 10 overarching general ideas or concepts of what it means to be a woman versus a girl. The title of my book, Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, A Modern Woman's Guide, purposely was chosen to include the term modern. And while I go into great detail about what it means to be a modern woman in Chapter 2, Live Simply Luxuriously, much of the definition of a woman is just assumed. And since that is the case, I would like today to look precisely at what differentiates a woman from a girl. After all, we were all at one point young, carefree, solely and necessarily dependent upon our parents. And this is a crucial part of living well. However, there is a time in each of our lives that we must evolve, progress, and then shed this skin as it has an expiration date of sorts, after which point being a girl won't serve us well as we want to pursue our true potential. And so in taking this concept of looking inward that I spoke about earlier, this idea of not looking externally to what we want or what we're seeking maybe in a relationship or just in life in general, but looking inward, how are we being our best selves, in other words? I wanted to dive in today, or to immerse ourselves today in this understanding of how we as women can truly step into and own this idea of becoming a woman. Much of what I'm going to say will no doubt remind readers of a post that I wrote this last summer called Grown-ups versus Adults. But today I will dive even more deliberately into the feminine aspect of this concept, because they are very similar. They are very similar. All right, so let's get started. Let's dive in, starting off with number 1, which deals with relationships. Let's start off with what a woman does when it comes to relationships. A woman may or may not desire a romantic pairing. So let's just be honest here. I mean, we're not assuming anything. There may be a lot of women, and I know there are a lot of women, that thoroughly enjoy living a life without a partner. And that's absolutely wonderful. But whatever your choice is, this is the key difference between a woman and a girl. If she does desire a romantic pairing, she chooses to do so because it amplifies her life. She will not step into a relationship, and she will especially not go as far as to say, I do, simply because she doesn't want to feel left out from her friends who are getting married. A woman is quite content in her own company, and she would rather be alone, pursuing her passions, strengthening her friendships, and building her legacy than be involved with the wrong person. Conversely, a girl is scared to death of being alone. Primarily, this fear is cultivated by those around her and the media she subjects herself. What I mean by media, it could be films, movies, the music she listens to, her social media accounts, whatever it is that she surrounds herself and allows to penetrate her mind and her consciousness. It is also an indicator that she is not either comfortable with herself or who she is, or simply hasn't taken the time yet to figure out who she is. And this discovery, as we've talked about many times in the blog, is something that often has to be done on your own. Not always, there's always exceptions, but it's easier to take a corner, turn down a street, try something new when someone else isn't going to be affected by your decision. A girl, with regards to relationships, will jump from one to the next with little regard for the quality of the individual she is involved with, simply because she doesn't want to be alone. That's the difference between a woman and a girl when it comes to relationships. Number 2 has to do with dating. A woman is strong and confident enough to let a man know that she is interested in him. There was a post that I wrote a few years ago about this idea that it should be allowed to allow the man to court the woman. And it actually stirred some great conversations, and I'll share a link to it on the blog, and I talk about it in my book as well. But this idea that a woman shouldn't chase a man. Now, I actually am a very direct person, and I'm willing to take risks. And in my younger years, in my 20s, I was willing to, let's go. I'm going to go ask this guy out. And I would do that. But what I'm saying in number 2 is more of let him know you're interested. Don't play coy. Don't play games. And by doing that, you let this man, if he is indeed a man, and again, you can go to the blog post today about the 10 differences between a man and a boy. A man, if he's interested, will respond in kind. There will be no game playing. There will be no game playing. Whether you want to take the initiative and go first, I have to be honest, I've kind of shifted on this. I will definitely let someone know I'm interested, but it's going to be simple or subtle. It's not going to be uber direct. And then I just go from there, and they go from there, and it happens kind of organically or it doesn't. But that's kind of been my approach. I've totally tempered myself from my insecure, I think, ways in my 20s. I really think I was acting out of a way of insecurity in my 20s. And so you learn and you move forward. And it's a progression, and everyone's going to go through different progression to get to a different point based on their personality, I think, and their experiences. There's no judgment here as to what's best, because I don't think there really is a best way to meet someone. If it's going to happen, and it's going to happen, and if you show interest and you're comfortable and confident in yourself, and he is too, it'll figure itself out. It will just figure itself out. With that said, a woman lets go of the game playing. Let's go of the game playing. And as long as the foundation of any relationship is built upon maintaining your self-respect and your integrity, there is no need for game playing, because that's for someone who doesn't have confidence. That's for someone who likes drama. And that's what a girl is. A girl likes the drama. She feeds off it. She doesn't have anything else going on in her life of more importance than to play that game of, will he call me? That's what overwhelms her attention. And a woman has other things going on in her life, other interests, other passions. So she doesn't have time for that. And she'll be very clear about what she can and cannot do. Yes, I can go out Saturday night. No, I can't go out Friday because I am going out with my girlfriends, or I'm flying to Chicago, or whatever it is. There is no game playing, no guessing. And that is the difference between a woman and a girl with regards to dating. Number 3 comes back to finances. A woman has a very strong, independent financial stability. She is secure in her finances. She has a steady job, or as a means of regular income that allows her to live independently. Whether she's in a relationship or not, she knows she can land on her own 2 feet. She knows where her money is going, and she's not afraid of taking care of her money and trusting her own education on money. And if she doesn't know enough about money, she chooses to get educated and not just rely on other people to handle it. I have a ton of posts on money, and in fact, chapter 3 of the book is dedicated entirely to mastering your money. Because it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, anyone can learn how to master their money. A girl, on the other hand, when it comes to money, she will either marry someone who will take care of her financially, or she will simply just refrain from educating herself on the power of successful financial planning, because money may appear too daunting to her. And so therefore she basically just sabotages herself by getting in the way of achieving anything she's truly capable of. So the difference between a woman and a girl when it comes to money is a woman respects it and masters it and becomes knowledgeable about it and respects the power of it. A girl shies away from it or has other people take care of the money issues for her. So number 3 is dealing with finances. Number 4 has to do with confidence. A woman recognizes that true confidence comes from within. No one else can give it to her. She cultivates it by stretching herself, by stepping out of her comfort zone, by trying new things. And gradually, with each success, even if it took a few attempts to get to that success, her confidence is strengthened. While she recognizes there are going to be days when her emotions may get to be a little bit frustrating, may have those days of mood swings or just can't get to see the positive in something, she knows those are just fleeting moments. She knows they will pass, and she doesn't dwell on them. She respects the power that there is of mastering her mind, and she refuses to be sucked into the debilitating powers of certain emotions. A woman takes the time to get to know herself, to understand her strengths and weaknesses, and she realizes that she is a work in progress, and she rather focuses on excellence than perfection. However, she also knows her self-worth, and based on her personality, she will not be subjected to disrespect from a partner or at her place of work. A woman realizes that the only way to gain self-confidence is through experiences. A woman has a mind of her own and speaks up for herself and others when necessary. But a girl, on the other hand, seeks confidence from external sources. The number of social media followers she has, a busy date book, approval from her peers with regards to her behavior or her clothing or her life choices. A girl without self-confidence can easily be manipulated into believing what others want her to believe about herself. So a big difference there between a girl and a woman. Number 5, with regards to appearance. A woman knows her body and dresses to accentuate it. She may reveal her silhouette, but not too much skin. A woman is acutely aware that while beauty may get you in the door, it's your intelligence, your know-how, your confidence, your willingness to speak up for yourself and be accommodating but charming, but also determined, productive, and take charge if need be, is what's going to get you over that threshold. However, she does respect the power of dressing well, and while she wouldn't walk out the door without her makeup or maybe just brushing her hair, she isn't doing this because she's vain. She's not doing this because she's insecure. She's doing it because she has some self-respect. A girl, on the other hand, relies solely on her looks to close the deal. She may reveal too much skin or wear too much makeup, or she may not pay attention to her looks at all and just maybe give up entirely on herself because she doesn't understand the power of who she is. This is because she hasn't discovered her talents, because she hasn't discovered what she can offer to the world. And everyone has something to offer. It's a matter of unearthing it. And this, again, comes from that self-confidence. When you find what you're passionate about, when you find what you love to do, what you're good at, that's when self-confidence grows. And that's when you realize you have so much more to offer than just a beautiful face. Number 6, with regards to dating expectations. A woman, while not expecting a man to pay for dinner or dates or wherever the outing takes them, will have money on hand just in case. Although if she's dating a man, that gentleman will most likely pay. But she doesn't expect it. It's not expected. I think that's the key thing. She's prepared for it. And especially if she's the one suggesting the date or organizing the date, she will expect to pay. And such is the case that even a true gentleman, I mean, it's amazing. It's a tightrope. I can't even imagine the stress that men have nowadays. But so do women, to be honest with you. I always have money on hand, but I've noticed the key difference between men and boys is that even if it's clear that the man has been paying for a lot more, the man will always offer to pay. He will generally offer to pay, or not even offer, just do it. A woman can ask and ask and ask, but a man, a true gentleman, will continually refuse them. Now, again, there's a balance there, but in the beginning stages, that's typically how it's happened. And it also comes down to just an understanding of respect for each other. And you can have that conversation, obviously, but don't expect it. Just appreciate it when it happens by saying thank you. I think that's the big thing. Don't expect it, but be gracious in saying thank you, because it is a treat and it is something to say thankful for. A girl, on the other hand, a girl will allow the date to play out exactly as he wants it to, as she is not secure in her sense of self and aims to please. So huge difference there. Huge difference. The woman is simply saying, I'm an equal partner here. And while I don't expect the man to pay, if he does so, I would definitely be appreciative. And I think the key at the end of all this is just communicate, just talk. I think don't assume anything, just talk. And as soon as you break that barrier, it'll open up so many amazing doors. I'm going to take a quick 1-minute intermission. I will see you on the other side with the remaining 4 and this week's Petite Pleasure. Welcome back. All right, for the remaining 4 differences between a woman and a girl, let's dive into number 7, which has to do with conversation. How to have a conversation. What the heck are we talking about? Okay, so a woman can hold a conversation with just about anyone, but the difference is that it goes deeper than just the surface. A woman is listening. She's genuinely listening. She's being very perceptive She is well read also and very aware of her world around her. She is comfortable in existential conversations as well as conversations about local politics. But a girl, on the other hand, is more comfortable simply gossiping, complaining, or focusing on superficial information that really doesn't deepen the conversation. So there's just not a lot of depth in a girl's conversation versus there is with a woman, and she's aware of her audience, who she's talking to, and she kind of navigates what would be appropriate, what wouldn't, what could maybe challenge the conversation, heighten it a little bit, take it a little deeper. So a very savvy conversationalist. Number 8 has to do with social media. And we all have our social media accounts. Maybe we have Facebook, maybe we have Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is we have, our Pinterest page, for goodness sakes, right? All sorts of inspiration. But the difference between how a woman handles it versus a girl, here we go. A woman reserves her social media accounts for business and for her curiosities. So you are following certain people on Twitter or Instagram that inspire you or give you ideas, or you just want to get a glimpse into how the dream life would look like as you pursue your goals to maybe you're trying to live that way. I don't know. Or maybe you're following people on Twitter that offer inspiring quotes or news feeds, or maybe on Pinterest, you're collecting images of how to decorate your house or clothing. Whatever it is, you are having these social media accounts for pleasure, those curiosities, as well as for business if necessary. And you reserve face-to-face conversations for those close interactions, those friendships, those true friendships, or you'd have those one-on-one texting conversations instead of putting it on your Facebook and having everybody see it. You also are someone who's inclined more to write a thank you note or send a letter or invites, not just e-invites online, especially for special occasions. You are someone who appreciates, I guess, something for someone spending time, the investment, and you're not afraid or unable to take that time out. That's what the difference between a woman and a girl, because a girl, she can't wait to update her social status on Facebook as soon as she either becomes single or gets into a relationship, or she's super excited to share gossip on all sorts of media sites. There's new ones called Yik Yak, or to share a group selfie to demonstrate how popular she is and what she's doing every night. This girl, a girl, with regards to social media, is seeking validation when she's posting or doing those kind of things. So that's number 8. Number 9, we're going to talk about the sense of direction. Sense of direction, knowing where we're going. A woman has goals. She has aspirations and intentions for her life. Often, the rigidity may loosen up as she realizes that she may not be wanting to hit a concrete target, but rather create a certain concept of what her life will look like and feel like. But still, she knows where she's going. A woman stands on her own to travel this journey, but recognizes that there is great value in relationships, whether they be at work, with her family, or personal and romantic. And helping those that she loves, she's also going to help them travel along towards their goals and dreams as well. A woman is insatiable in her quest for learning and exploring, and she doesn't wait for life to entertain her, as she recognizes that life is ready to dance, and she merely has to simply get on the dance floor and start moving. A girl doesn't really know what she wants. And due to this ambivalence, she may default to a man and follow his path, help him pursue his dreams while losing herself and her potential in the process. Or a girl may follow a path that others have decided for her without giving any forethought to it because she has been given their approval and therefore doesn't have to swim upstream. Number 10, the last one, standards versus expectations. A woman has standards. In other words, I want to take a look at the difference between standards and expectations on this. A woman, with regards to standards, holds herself in check when it comes to what she needs in her life to be her best self, and is self-actualized enough that she knows what will be detrimental to reaching her full potential and maintaining good health, whether it be mental or physical. A girl, though, has expectations rather than standards. Expectations meaning she's putting something on the external. She's forcing life to produce something for her rather than taking responsibility for it. That's what standards would do. Responsibility, expectations are shifting that responsibility to an external force. She may have a list of superficial demands that others or her potential mate must have before she will involve herself in something. And this is actually what is going to be the barrier between getting beyond just the surface and finding some substance in a relationship. So I wanted to end on that one because I think overall that's the overarching difference, is a woman takes responsibility for her life. And she understands that there's great power in understanding who she is, tapping into what she loves, having the courage to seek it out. And in doing so, she finds those strong relationships. And then in doing so, she builds that self-confidence. And it all kind of dovetails together to help her reach her full potential and live this fulfilling life every single day. Even though it may have some ups and downs, she knows how to navigate them. A girl, on the other hand, seeks contentment outside of herself because she is uncomfortable or insecure with who she is. She hasn't found it yet. Does it mean she won't find it? Absolutely not. All of us have been girls at one point. It's a choice, as we said at the top of this episode, to become a woman. It's something that we choose to do, and it's something we all can do, and that's the good news. Becoming a woman, reveling in all that being a woman can entail, is a choice, as we just said, that will empower us all to become our best self. And it will surround us with a support system that offers respect, love, and comfort as we offer those people the same. Choosing to be a woman must be a conscious choice, as society will have us believe a myriad of definitions based on what we expose ourselves to with regards to movies, online, or on television, or even in print. We must begin with a recognition of our self-worth. It's there. Our self-worth has always been there. And I'll share a link on today's show notes of how to cultivate or discover. As I said, it's always been there, to discover our self-worth and really tap into it. While each one of us is a work in progress, as I said previously in the podcast today, and you perhaps, as you're listening to this list, the difference between a woman and a girl, you perhaps, and I know I did this, you may recognize that there have been moments when we've regressed into being a girl. But that's okay. I don't want us to beat ourselves up about that, because as long as we recognize it, we can improve. We can move forward and allow the girl that wishes to hold us back, we can allow her to remain in the past and move on from her. All right, so that wraps up today's episode. For all of today's show notes, all the blog posts that I mentioned, as well as the transcripts for today, go ahead and go to the blog, www.thesimplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast24, and you'll have everything there, as well as this week's Petite Pleasure, which offers a complete menu to satiate your taste, as well as anyone you may be spending it with this weekend or any other day of the year. Stay tuned. I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back. So for this week's Petite Pleasure, I am going to share with you a recipe for steak that is amazing. And it is not my recipe. I actually cut it out of the newspaper about, I think, 6 or 7 years ago in my hometown, and I have been keeping it in my recipe book ever since. It is from one of our favorite restaurants here, the Plateau, here in Pendleton, Oregon, and it is worth the investment of a good whiskey. You do not have to use Pendleton whiskey. We just happen to be from Pendleton, and that is the whiskey that is very prevalent here. But it is a good whiskey, I'll be honest. If you do not want to have any alcohol when you're making this recipe, I completely understand. You can use beef broth, because what you're using this liquid for is to deglaze the pan, which will then turn into a sauce that you'll drizzle over the steak. So what I've done for you today is I have put together a menu, an entire menu from drink to entree, so including your sides, that is easy to make and maybe just ideal for what you're looking for this romantic weekend if you're staying home, which I think is one of the best ways to spend Valentine's Day. No big brouhaha, don't go out to a restaurant. Why not make dinner and relax with a great glass of wine and delicious food? So I won't go through it detail by detail the entire recipe on today's episode, but I will show all the recipes and ingredients and steps on the show notes today on the blog, www.thesimplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast24. So what am I going to pair this steak with? So I have this Pendleton whiskey steak, and there's a couple different cuts that I'll suggest on the show notes for you. I used a T-bone. And on my Instagram feed a couple weeks ago, I showed a picture of my meal, my entire meal, which is what inspired today's Petite Pleasure. And it is paired with Julia Child's buttered green beans, which take all of 5 to 8 minutes to make. And it's also paired with a recipe that was inspired by Julia Child. It was actually found in Judith Jones' cookbook that I picked up a couple years ago called The Joy of Cooking for One. And it is delicious. It takes about 16 to 20 minutes, and it's just very finely sliced red potatoes or new potatoes. And they have just enough crisp, but a little bit of butter and garlic. It's just awesome. Absolutely awesome. And then, of course, you've got to pair some red wine with it, a full-bodied red. And I've linked to one of my favorites, but as long as you pick up one that you like and go with it. That's exactly what wine's all about. It's about drinking what you like. Who cares about the label and where you got it as long as you like what you're drinking. So I'll share that entire menu on today's show notes. I think you're really going to like it. And I want to talk about the aioli that I highly recommend you drizzle on top of the steak after you've put the sauce on it. It's a roasted shallot aioli. Very simple to make. It's recommended to be paired with this steak. It takes 45 minutes, but the 45 minutes is in roasting the shallots. After the shallots are roasted, you take it out, put them in the food processor, add the 3 or 4 ingredients, and it's done. That easy. And it's so worth it. It's worth it because you drizzle it and then you dunk it and then it's just scrumptious. So find all the recipes on today's show notes. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petite Pleasure, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each Monday's podcast, where I'll recommend a book, a film, a recipe, or from time to time introduce you to an expert who offers insight into how to live simply luxuriously. Anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. Thank you for tuning in to the SImple Sophisticate podcast, where every Monday, intelligent living is paired with signature style. This week, I'm going to leave you with a song from a singer I introduced you to this last Friday on the This and That, Ella Eyre. I hope you enjoy, and wait for the saxophone. It's fantastic. Bonjour.
Now, from your lips, you just took for granted that I want to skin it deep, quick hit. That's okay, but I'm not a piece of meat. I see you not great.